about the noise, where legends rise. From the clouds to the crowd, this is Crowd, where Africa meets opportunity, where music meets magic.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is another session of our L&D series, and I'm your host for today. As usual, I'm Adedipe, the Newma. And, today we're talking about something really interesting. We're talking about the music law playbooks, contracts, catalog, and copyrights for African creators. We're talking about a lot of stuff, basically from the legal side. And we got an amazing person from Lagos, Nigeria, one of the sweetest persons in the game right now. This person we're talking about is a media, entertainment, and sports lawyer who advises clients across the entertainment, media, and sports sector from Adedipe University. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about the one and only Oghenetega Adedipe. I want to believe I do. It's just, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Trust you're feeling good too.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
Let's get right to it. Today we're talking about the music law playbook. We're talking about the intersection of music and law. Very interestingly, I was writing about, I am writing about how, the digital age has impacted music, and then, it now, how the law affects, or how the law comes in to balance it, because you know that human interaction always needs laws to like balance and things like that. So I have been writing about that. So I kind of like this topic because it's something within my niche,
Yeah.
So I think I'd really love that. Give us an overview of the topic. Just give us a brief overview of the music law playbook, our contracts, catalog, copyright, just the intersection of music and law, basically.
Yeah. So thank you so much for having me once again. I think it's very straightforward, like you had said. To do anything, you need to enter into contracts, you need to enter into agreements, but more so in the creative industry. Before the last couple of years, let me say post-COVID, pre-COVID, there were not a lot of agreements flying around for certain things in the creative industry. It was mostly, will I say cut and paste? It was just touch and go for most people. No one really understood the need for certain agreements. I think for artists of 10 years, 15 years ago, I think they probably had like one pager, 2 pager agreements. Even artists like the ones that draw, they didn't really used to enter into agreements and all that stuff. Down to content creators. Now we have streamers, we have influencers, all those stuff. Nothing till date. There's still some sectors in that area that they don't see the need for contracts, but it's growing every day. It's growing by every exposure and by every mistake that we make. Something really happened after 2020 that just made the world more global. So there a lot of things started happening and moving around the world, and people started finding different ways to make money. And as you find different ways to make money, you're finding different loopholes, and that's why contracts have to come in to tighten those loopholes, to foresee certain circumstances and just make sure that we are not being cheated, or our clients are not being cheated and all that stuff. So yeah, the playbook. I don't think there's. I would like to say that I don't think there's a music law playbook, because again, it's still touch and go. There's still certain things that we are still discovering and we're still understanding as we go, and we just basically what's the word now? Learning it. I still do a lot of reading. I don't like to call myself a thought leader. I'm just still reading and learning, because there's something new every day. There's something you don't understand every day. So I think that's it. There are certain agreements that are compulsory, like the distribution agreement, the side artist agreement, featured artist agreement. There are various agreements that you would need, sync agreements, just to make sure that your work is protected. But again, it's still touch and go. We're still figuring out things.
All right, thank you so much for that. I was writing about the fact that the digital, space is moving really fast, and there are a lot of things that have happened or that are happening that the law has not caught up with. They are trying so hard to catch up with, but before now, if we're talking about how law comes in, we're still talking about certain issues that have not been sorted in times past, and then now we are having newer issues that the law is like, wow. So let's just have an overview. What are the common contractual pitfalls that African creators fall into, and how can they be avoided? I think notable amongst them would be not having a contract agreement to even start with. So let's just see other ones too that we have.
Sorry, do you mind repeating your question again?
I said that what are the most common contractual pitfalls that African creators fall into, and how can they be avoided even before signing, their first deals and stuff?
The first thing you need to do is just have a lawyer, if possible, if you can afford it on retainer. That's the first thing you need to do. A lawyer that knows that area of law, not a family lawyer that you're sending music work. Well, the first thing you need to do is a lawyer that knows what they are doing, or at least is that interested in that area and they are willing to learn. I think most of the mistakes that people make is just their IP, licensing their IP more than or broader than they are supposed to. So most people don't understand IP licensing. When I mean IP, intellectual property licensing, most people don't understand how long a rope they should cut or how much they should give or not give in terms of the royalties and all that. So most times, like the problem is just entering into agreements that doesn't cover your IP or protect your IP in some sense, and then I think the most significant one is determination. So most times people sign agreements that it's almost like they've signed their life. There's no way out. They don't know how. They don't know how to. So if there are certain agreements that in music that don't require a termination clause, it's more of a okay, fulfill your deliverables or not. Either you fulfill your deliverables or you don't fulfill your deliverables, and that's it. There's not necessarily a termination clause, but like there's always a way to exiting an agreement, and that's how the contract. It depends on how the contract is drafted. So there's that. Like, oh my God, sorry, I am at a workspace and I'm just at the balcony, so I'm sure you can hear the cars.
That's fine.
Yeah, so yeah, exiting this agreement, people just find themselves in a bind because they didn't necessarily seek the right legal counsel. What else? Poorly drafted agreements. So you can have everything all good. I always tell people that an agreement is an agreement, or an agreement is just black and white until there's problem. That's the truth. Like we can sign an agreement, both of us, and it's just black and white, and we're doing our thing. We're doing what we're supposed to do. Till there's a problem, that's when everybody go back to the agreement and be like, wait, no, what does this agreement say? So people don't. People always enter into agreements with good faith, which is not bad. But like you also have to foresee the worst case scenario all the time.
Yeah.
As lawyers, we have to always be risk based. What's the highest risk that my client can get into? What is the lowest risk my client can get into? And how can I apply this into this contract? So people just enter, oh, the money they're offering me is big, but me I want to sign. I don't really care. Like, okay, the day that you enter Wahala and they're telling you that you pay that full money, even if you've been in the contract for 50% of the time that you're supposed to be, and they're telling you to pay your full money back, their full money back, you will realize that yeah, the contract didn't make sense and the money is big for a reason. So there's that. Yeah, I think that's what I can think of off the top of my head. And then I think people just consult AI so much these days, and AI only gives you what you give it. AI is trained. You train AI to give you answers, so it can never be like a professional advice. Some people just go to ChatGPT and ask, "Oh, what do you think about this agreement?" Or is this like does this agreement make sense? Meanwhile, like it's just going to give you the feedback that you want to hear. It's just going to give you the feedback you need. You still need a lawyer. I've had clients that would carry an agreement. I'll review it. They'll put it on ChatGPT and be like, ChatGPT said that we should check this and we should check that. And I'm like, there's no need to check that. That's a standard clause. So it's like, why is ChatGPT telling you to check that? Because I did not train it. I did not give you the information you needed to review the agreement. So that's it. Just I think people should rely less on AI and all. And then there's also the fact that a lot of things are very new. So, for instance, in the streaming industry, it's very new. So, there are certain things
Exactly.
that are applicable or not applicable. So, we always have to be very open minded to learning. That's the truth. We have to be very open minded to learning. We have to invest for lawyers, for content creators or artists. We just have to be open minded to just learning why does this thing make sense or not. So, it's that.
That was pretty amazing. I think the takeaways from that is that it is a very dynamic field, like I said earlier, and you cannot stick to certain things that you've learned over time. You have to keep. Yeah, you need a lawyer on retainer. Man, it's just as simple. You're not. There's no way to mince words. If you are doing this thing, you have to get a lawyer on standby. Because I feel like there are even times that some things can pop up randomly that are not even particularly maybe in the terms of your previous agreements, and they can actually affect the whole contract going forward. So if you don't have someone that you can rely on or get to like fix those things for you, you're on your own. Right. So these are the common pitfalls that most creators go through, and we've listed them. We mentioned that you just need to have a lawyer on retainer. I think that's just the safest way to put it.
Very
All right.
much so.
Another question I have here is how can African artists effectively manage and monetize their catalogs both locally and internationally? I think you were talking about licensing and things like that. So how can they monetize and manage their catalogs?
So how can they effectively monetize? Again, it still goes down to that open-mindedness. There's a lot of things happening these days. There's a lot of money to be made, even in the most, will I say, unconventional situations. A lot of deals are flying around these days. So I think we're in the distribution age when it comes to music. We're in the distribution age where people would rather enter into a distribution agreement than a label
Rather than a
agreement.
managerial deal.
Yeah, so the difference is that when you're in a label manages you, gives you money to do everything you need to do, your day to day, probably put you on a salary, and it's successful most of the time. I think I can't even say that that was not even a successful this thing approach, but like it's people are moving away from that now to the distribution age where distribution companies just approach you and tell you, you know what, I'll give you XYZ amount, give me one album, or give me one EP, or give me one song, I'll distribute it for you, and I'll take 30% of the money, or I'll take 50% of the money, depending on what you guys agree. And then you do that, you deliver that, and then they give you an advance to record. Most of the advances that they give you, they're giving you to record an EP or one song and all that. And then there's also a portion of it that will be dedicated to marketing that work. And then everybody make their money. So those deals are flying around, man. I can't even tell you the last time that I reviewed a label deal, but a distribution deal is on my table right now, and that's not the first. That's not the fifth this year. The new model of business, basically. That's what I'm saying. So
I think the reason for that is because we have like the streaming era made music accessible to indie artists a lot. Everybody's now indie. You get
yeah,
me?
so
So
it's not just the streaming era. So it's not just the streaming era. Yeah, like we're in the streaming era. Yeah, very rightly so. But like you know, now the world is very accessible. Like
from your
like
fingertips,
I promise you, like I can start a distribution company and give you money, and then all I just need to do is plug in one or two things, and then your music is going to where it's supposed to go. Especially if it's very good. The problem is that people don't have the money to promote their songs how they want to, so they give it to distribution company. That distribution company will push it how they are supposed to push it. And like you said, the streaming era. There's also the fact that we have a lot of sync deals going on now. Netflix, Prime, Apple, all these people, they now find the need to actually seek the right clearances before they use anybody's work. Before
right?
you could just, in fact, on Instagram, there are certain songs that you use, or depending on how frequent you use those songs, they will, and you're commercializing it, you're making money from it. They will take it down. They'll tell you, have you gotten the right, have you gotten the right, what's the word now? Have you gotten the right clearance for this
Right.
song? Like, so
Yeah.
it's the digital era, streaming era, everything is just in favor of these artists. But at the same time, it's also you have to be very, very careful that you don't put yourself in a box, or you enter a bad deal, or so people use stream farming, people use AI to do a lot of things now, and those things are against certain practices, and you have to be very careful that you're not falling into those kind of situations, and that's why you need a lawyer or someone that knows what they're doing, a music professional. So it's not even just a lawyer, but like an A&R or someone that's very good at what they do and they understand the business of it. You understand? So
Pretty clear. So far, we are still coming back to the same point. You need a lawyer on standby, whether whether or not you want to do. Just get a lawyer, bro, or else you will face it by yourself, and you will not be able to blame anybody because you were hearing what we're saying. All right. So next one. I like the fact that you touched on ownership a bit in the last question, and this is a very interesting because this age now we are tilting towards liberalism more, like worldwide and stuff. people might not notice, but it's really obvious. Ownership is a question when it comes to a lot of things. It's not even just music. When we're talking about patents, we're talking about product safe. Everybody is particular about ownership right now. And the music business has usually been tricky in times past because most times you sign thinking you are the owner of the work, but you eventually realize that you just did that as a work for hire, and you do not own that work. You're just the tool that God used. Let me use that word. So now there is a growing conversation about ownership these days. What should African creators know about retaining rights to their masters and publishing, especially when we're talking about big labels, distribution? So ownership generally.
To sum it up, you need a percentage. Yeah, your percentage is important. How much, but it doesn't even matter how large or how small your percentage is. But you need a cut from the soup. You also need a duration. That ownership that you're sharing with a label or distro or whatnot has to have a duration, meaning it has to have a start date and an end date. There has to be a period where it now reverses back to you in 100%. And then that's where like things like sunset clauses come in. So you need sunset clauses in your agreement where you can't. I always advise that you can't. A label can't own 50% of your masters for 10 years. It always has to, reduce as time goes on. By the 10th year, that's when it should be reaching like maybe 5% or 10% from 50%. Like it should just sunset. What else? You have to understand the kind of rights you're giving them. They're exclusive rights, they are non-exclusive rights in licensing, and then you when I mean exclusive, so you can't give a label the exclusive right to distribute all your catalog. So again, your catalog has to be defined, what you're giving them. Again, it all boils down to the agreement, how you negotiate your agreement. That's be clear cut in black and white and signed. And then understanding the kind of intellectual property you're giving them. When you're giving your publishing, you understand that your publishing is just based off what they can do. So there are different types of publishing deals. I have a write up about this online. So there's an admin deal, there's a publishing deal, a general publishing deal, then what's the word for this other publishing deal? So an admin deal is just, what, I'm just going to administer your catalog for this amount of years. I'm going to try and get, I'm going to pitch it to different companies and see if they're going to take it. If they take it, this is what I get. But you'll be paying me an administration deal. So regardless of if I find or not, you just pay me maybe 10% or 5% every year of what you make on this. And then there's when they pitch it, they get a certain percentage also. And then there's a general publishing deal where you don't even need to pay. They're just what's it called? They're just managing it, pitching it. Most times, it's bigger artists that get this kind of deals. The smaller artists get their main deals. But like they're just pitching it to everybody because you always get some that people that talk as well. What's the word now? The big artists, and then they make their money. So you just have to understand what you're giving at the end of the day. You have to understand what you're giving and what you're taking.
All right, thank you so much. So apparently now, I think it makes it obvious that the ownership structure is kind of better, right? I think it's kind of better now. At least now everybody now understands how the ownership structure works. In fact, I think
Yeah.
for most contracts these days, that's the first thing you see. You see the ownership sharing formula. So I think that's even is a red flag if you see your contract and you're not seeing the ownership sharing formula at the
Yeah, and
top
there's
of
more
it.
information out there. See, there's more information out there. People don't realize that you can. There are a lot of information. Like so, we're in the age of entertainment lawyers now. I can count. So one of the people, I look up to a few lawyers that started doing this a while ago. Fuza, Yemisi Falai, those people. Like I look up to those people, and when they were doing, when they started, I don't think they were up to. Let me just say 20 entertainment lawyers. Okay, and now there are a lot of people on the internet, even people that have not even been called man. The thing is, they know their shit. Even if they might have not been involved in big deals, they know what they are saying. So there's a lot of information out there. So it's hard to miss it. And then there's also a lot of information about the music business. So it's hard to miss these things. You can't miss it. If you actually seek the right counsel, you can pay someone as low as 100K. It might sound very cheap, but like depending on who the person is and depending on the kind of deal they are negotiating for you, It's
Right.
easy to just get to look at something for you and then you're good, like you're safe. Rather than paying. So I always tell people it's better to pay a huge sum of money for reviewing your agreement and you're safe than to pay a lawyer to fix a problem. When you come to me to fix a problem, I'm going to cash out on your head because I'll tell you it's how to fix it. And most times you need money, forget legal fees, you need money to get yourself out of those situations. So you're going to
Yeah.
spend a lot fixing it. Do you get me?
That's if you don't
That's
even
the
do
thing.
small.
Do you get? So that's the problem. Are you there? Hello?
Right. Feels like you're back. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hear
I
me.
can. I think I lost you for a bit.
Perfect. So yes, I wanted to ask a question about, we have copyrights rights and we have publishing rights, of course. So what's the difference? Is there a particular difference about it, or are they protected altogether? How does it work?
Let me clarify. Yeah, copyright is a type of IP. When I mean IP, intellectual property, and then publishing rights are rights that come out of your creative work, your creation, basically. Now,
Right.
intellectual property is divided into a few things: intellectual property, industrial design, then copyright. So those are like, so just look at it as branches. So IP is the stem, and then trademark, copyright, industrial design, patent are the branches from the main stem, and then publishing is under your right as intellectual property. So it can be under copyright or under trademark. But basically, publishing is the type of right that you get. Is the kind of power you get from the fact that you created something. It could be a copyright, it could be something you trademark, and they want to reproduce it. So publishing comes from the ability to take your work and reproduce it to use it for something for a commercial purpose. Now, whatever you're going to make from it is as a result of your rights as the publisher, as the main publisher. Do you understand? Yeah.
Okay.
So I hope that
So
clarifies it. So they are not on the same
yeah,
cadre.
of course.
Intellectual property divided into copyright, trademark, patent, industrial design. So publishing now generates one of those as the main creator. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. Perfect. So in supplementing that, so what legal documents or registration should be put in place before releasing music publicly? Now that we're in the distribution age, particularly,
Yeah.
let's use that for the music industry. So what legal
The
documents
important thing, there's nothing you don't do. If there's nothing you don't do, make sure you sign your split sheet. Make sure you have a split sheet agreement. What I call it agreement, split sheet form. Make sure you have a split sheet out there that is signed. The split sheet shows the split between each
every
artist, and
contributor?
so for each
Yeah.
contributor you get XYZ for publishing, for your royalties. Royalties is from your masters. So it's just divided even down to the producer, down to the instrumentalist if they want split from the song. So the split sheet is the first and most important thing. Now you can now have a form of split sheet in the featured artist agreement or side artist agreement. It can be inducted into that agreement as the split sheet. So you need that if you're featuring an artist, you need a featured artist agreement, side artist agreement. You need a producer agreement because producers are producing the beats. You need depending on how many producers that are on the song. So else? You need to also clear any sample. So
Right.
if you're sampling an old song from, let's say, Ayuba or K1, the ultimate, you need to clear that thing. You need an agreement that gives you permission to sample that song, especially the portion or the seconds and the beats that you're using. What else?
Uh, Sorry to cut you there. So, in getting to clear that, do you present that document to the distribution or whatever? Or is it that they just notify the distribution? How does that work?
What do you mean? Are you talking about sampling or just generally
Yeah,
deal with sampling?
sampling. Yeah, sampling.
Is your question, let me just understand the question. Are you asking, do I need to clear what's the word now? Do I need to present the approval that I've sampled this
The
song? No.
document. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Do
in
you have to like present the documents to your distributor?
so in all honesty, yeah, distributors differ. Like some people have standard practices, international best practices. So they will demand that you give them the agreement so they can register it. There's something they call there's a process for registering all these agreements on online and in the catalog so that there's no mix up. in the future. So some distributors demand it, some don't demand it. In most cases, to be honest, in the music industry, so as long as I've sent you an agreement by email, nobody is what's it called? Nobody's asking you if you signed it or not. We agreed this is already in an agreement form. No, voila, capiche. Let's go. But like some distributors, like the international ones, um, they ask you for the agreement, everything. Most times in the featured artist agreement, the sampling split is already there. In the split sheet agreement, the sampling split is already there. So you present that to the distributor and then they register it.
Thank you so much. In rounding off this series or this session, I'd like to ask. So we have PROs, we have CMOs, that's performing rights organization, and publishing administrators, and all of this stuff. So, what role do they play in the industry? I think now we have is it MCSN as Music Copyright Society of Nigeria. Yeah,
So in Nigeria, it's not regulated like that. We're still
catching up.
trying to it's actually catching up, yeah. So it's a field that we don't necessarily understand and we're still catching up. And that's where education is necessary. Those guys in the abroad, they play a huge role. They sometimes go to court on behalf of their clients or on behalf of. So, as an artist, you should register to a CMO, a PRO, you know, over there because they are the ones that collect streaming income from radio stations, from live performances, from bars. Because over there, there's a certain amount of money that bars, live music people, radio stations pay to these guys to be able to play your song. And then there are people that track that. Okay, so my song was played for 10 minutes. So my song was played for 30 seconds, 5 times on the 7th of August. Now, the people that will track it, they will log it in and they'll calculate it. Okay, this is what Tega have earned today. And those guys help you collect that amount. You understand? So in Nigeria, I'm still figuring it out, to be honest. And I mean, we'll get there someday because we don't even have the facility in terms of machine to be able to track that. So we're still figuring it out. Yeah.
All right, all right. Thank you so much. So, like we said, we're really hoping that Nigeria catches up. This explains that we need more people in the system. I feel we even need a lot of educators right now, aside from even the lawyers. So we need more legal educators. Is there anything like that?
Legal educators. You mean like in terms of the music business?
Yes, I mean like for like this kind of thing that you mentioned. I said we need more educators, like for
Yeah,
helping
just
organizations. Or is that the work of the lawyers? Are they the ones that we educate?
no. So it's a collective. It's joint work. Everybody just needs to understand what we need to do and how we need to move forward.
Right. So basically, the government.
It's the lawyers, the artists, everyone. So there's this auditorium that is being built right now in Lekki. Somewhere is it Lekki or VI? I think it's going to be one of the biggest. Sorry, excuse me. It's going to be one of the biggest auditoriums in Nigeria, and I feel like when the auditorium is built, like it's going to really bring international artists to Nigeria. Now, when the auditorium is built, the government needs to figure out how artists that go there will be compensated when their song is played. So that's a different conversation. We don't need to go into it, but it's a joint effort. Like we need to have a working document that helps us track these things. Where I am now, songs are being played on their speaker, but I think they pay money to local governments to have this ability to play these songs. But I don't know if the local government now remits to the PROs. I don't know if PROs are following up with local government. Nobody is here to track if Thames or Whiskey or Ira or any foreign artist is being played. I don't know if you get there's a system around all that, and we're still figuring it out. Honestly, we'll get there.
Great. Hopefully. All right. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. This session was pretty exciting, and I believe that a lot of people that would see this would learn a lot about the music business and try not to implicate themselves by not getting a lawyer. In every field of your life, you cannot do without a lawyer because unless you are ready to make some mistakes and you
So
will pay.
a client texted me sometime this week that, oh, what do you advise? Should I do marriage registry or not? And in my head, I thought, like, like, what do you mean by that? Like, you don't want marry? Like, what do you mean by that question? But like, I didn't take it. I sat down and I explained to him the pros and cons of going to the registry to get married, get a marriage certificate, and then as opposed to customary marriage and all that. So like I explained it to him, and like, again, as a lawyer, you can only advise. You cannot tell your clients what to do. So
Right, right,
I said,
right.
yes, this is what is applicable. This is what's applicable. So it's you that will choose the one you want to do. So down
Pick,
to even
pick your
marriage
poison.
advice. Yeah.
Right, right. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you. This was amazing, amazing. Mr.
Thank you.
Oghenetega Adedipe. Are
Thank
you
you for
Yoruba?
having me. Yes, I am.
Oh, amazing, amazing. I mean, because the
Yeah,
reason I asked was Oghenetega.
yeah,
So,
I get that every time.
all right. Thank you so much. You have a nice day.
Thank you for
Right,
having
all
me.
right, all right, all right.